Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the day after the Uvalde shooting, I had the opportunity to meet with CBP Chief Ortiz and also talk with marshals who were on the scene in that school. I happened to be in South Texas at that time. And it is not a tragedy. It is beyond a tragedy. A tragedy imputes some kind of non-intentional or accidental event. This was beyond that. This was a deliberate, malicious, evil event by this 18-year-old young man, and so it's beyond a tragedy, and it most certainly does need to be addressed and needs to be investigated further. There have been multiple accounts, as there normally would be, from parents, from law enforcement who was on the scene, from Border Patrol agents, the BORTAC unit, et cetera. I hope that we can get to the bottom of exactly what transpired there so we understand it more fully. I also express more than just heartfelt thoughts towards the families who were affected and the community itself that was impacted by this. But I also think it's important, Mr. Chairman, to consider a whole host of additional pieces of information. And I'm throughout the course of the day, I will submit various studies, articles dealing with these gun shootings. For instance, Mr. Chairman, I submit for the record a piece entitled "Chicago's had most mass shootings in the U.S. since 2018. What's the solution?"
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's from CBS Chicago that was discussing that post Uvalde. And also, Mr. Chairman, another piece called "Chicago had 971 shootings in the first half of the year, while violence is trending down from the pandemic peak. It is still way too high."
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The left and the Democrats' response to virtually every problem is to take more power and control into the national government and take away individual rights or throw taxpayers' money at the problem, sometimes both. That's why they tend to exacerbate virtually every problem without resolution. They misidentify the cause of virtually every effect. The misuse of guns for criminal or even evil purposes is another example. Millions of Americans safely and responsibly own and use guns. Previous Democrat-controlled departments of justice have conservatively estimated that guns are used 1.5 million times per year to save lives. I repeat, the Department of Justice under Democrat control and leadership under Democrat administrations have done their studies and conservatively estimated that guns are used 1.5 million times per year to save lives. Other studies have put that number as high as 2.5 million times per year that a gun is used to save life. Most of the time, the vast majority of the time, it is merely by brandishing a weapon that that stops the violent criminal conduct without having to shoot. The idea that disarming Americans who lawfully, legally own guns, the idea that disarming them will produce a safer, crime-free America is simply not true. I will be going into the Australia studies. I will go into the 17-nation international studies as we go throughout this day. We will review again in my comments from time to time the Chicago, Portland, New York City, Seattle, and other bastions of left-wing gun-controlled areas where the public is not safer because of the gun control laws. In fact, they are more at risk. Mr. Chairman, this is an important hearing. I think it's probably premature in relationship and being driven by the response to Uvalde, and I understand that. But I also think that sometimes visceral reactions might overshadow the statement of facts that we need to discuss. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.